Thought I'd run through real quick a couple of the simpler bank reconciliation problems. And I know it seems so simple to me, but I remember the day back before we had electronic banking when you had to do all this stuff with a pencil. So I guess for old people, this makes a lot more sense. And for our younger viewers here, in this day and age of electronic everything, this might seem a real throwback, but a lot of businesses still do a lot of paper transactions rather than debits and credit than checks and rather than electronic banking. All right, so it's actually gotten a little bit more difficult with the electronic banking because it's harder to keep track of. Life was simple back in the day. All right, anyway, what we want to do is do a bank reconciliation, and there's a couple of steps in that. One is we want to figure out what the bank balance should be. All right, so we just got the what's the name of the company? Terry's Pest Control Company. My dad owned a pest control company back in the day, but that's immaterial. All right, so TPCC is trying to do a bank reconciliation, and there's two stages of this. First of all, you want to adjust the bank balance, what the bank says they have, and adjust that for things you know have happened but just haven't run through the bank yet. And then the second thing is to take the book balance, that's what our accounting numbers tell us, and adjust that for things that the bank says that have happened that we might not have recorded yet. And those two ought to balance. Okay, so let's start with we'll get the bank statement done. So you start with the unadjusted bank balance. And what does the bank say? The unadjusted bank balance in line 1 over there says $870. Now, I think the screen was kind of squirrely because then they start telling you stuff that was in the bank statement, but that's what we use to adjust the book balance. To get the bank statement adjusted, we have to record anything the bank doesn't know about. Okay, so first things first, the bank doesn't know that we made a deposit, so there's a deposit in transit that the bank hasn't received yet by the time they processed our bank statement. So there's $400 extra, and we've written two more checks or a couple of checks totaling $120. So that would be, call it uncashed checks or outstanding checks. All right, so we've written $120 of checks that the bank hadn't gotten as of the time of the financial statement. So the true cash balance in the checking account, given these things, ought to be the 870 plus the 400 minus the 120, or $1,150. That's if we stopped right now, didn't do another thing, and waited a couple of days till everything cleared the bank. That would be what was in the checking account. Of course, we can't do that, but that's what would happen. That's just stuff that's in transit and it's bank float. All right, so to adjust our financial statements, we're going to start with the unadjusted cash book balance. All right, this is what the financial statements that we have to date before we record all these new things. It said $1,400. The bank sent us a statement though, and they list some stuff. There's a credit memo for interest earned. All right, yay us, that's $120. No, that's $60. That's this credit memo. The bank also tells us one of the checks we deposited did not clear, that the customer wrote the check, not sufficient fund checks. That check didn't clear the bank, so they take that out of our account. And they also mention that the service charge is $110. All right, so That's the stuff that we got from the bank statement. Didn't know the check hadn't cleared the bank because that's what the bank statement just told me. Didn't know I had $60 interest, but the bank just told me I did. And the service charge of $110, didn't know about that till I got the bank statement. So the true cash balance on our balance sheet after we make adjustments should be 1150. And oh Lord, isn't that good news that the bank balance matches the book balance that we have. So that's bank reconciliation. I know the book makes it seem really hard. It's not, and the computer does most of the work. And in this day and age, it's a whole lot faster, easier, and smarter because when you pull up, you don't have to wait for a bank statement. Most of this stuff is done as you go along, so it actually moves faster. But anyway, this is the concept. Even if it seems a little convoluted, that's what we're trying to do is figure out how much cash we actually do have available for spending, and it's $1,150.